Hey, viva Chorizo!
Per Marie.
So the same gang now. How was your discussion?
Tú eres de Brasil, portugués, español. Teresa, ¿te acuerdas de la WIS, de promotores? ¿Te acuerdas alguna vez que hemos coincidido? ¿Cómo estás?
Grazie. Bene, tutto ok.
Tutto bene? Io anche
Tutto bene, sì.
Aldo?
Anche la famiglia? La famiglia
Sì,
bene?
grazie, sì, sì.
Mingalaba kamiya John. John Mingalaba kamiya.
Bene, ben ritrovati a tutti. Siamo ancora insieme in questa ultima sessione conclusiva di questa intensa ma ricca 3 giorni che abbiamo vissuto e vorremmo concludere con un indirizzo di saluto, di incoraggiamento.
Saluting with encouragement words entrusted to Sister Yolanda Kafka, who is president of the UISG. She's missionary superior general since 2017. And in the 2017, she has become president of the union. She was born in Poland and has was trained in Rome and had her first apostolic experience in Rome, in Apulia, and she has been trained in Bologna. She studied theology and was specialized in theology of consecrated life, and she pursued her training, and we are entrusting her the conclusive remarks of these last 3 days. Thank you, Father Aldo. Thank you, everybody. I'm very pleased to have been able to participate, even if in a conclusive way, to this conference, even though I was able to follow the contents through the contacts with our sisters, which transmitted the contents. While I was thinking on how to encourage and how to address my words to you with respect and gratitude, with thanks, a thought came to my mind. And with this thought, well, it's my father who was a wandering man. He was a Armenian. He went down to Egypt and stayed there as a stranger. And this is the profession of faith, which recalls the experience of Abraham. And my master was a pilgrim in Palestine and elsewhere without a fixed abode. And he became the model of my life, and I am following him together with the others. And my founders, Antonio Maria Claret and Maria Antonia Paris, were pilgrims as well, pilgrims in the faith, and they also needed to cross several frontiers and borders in order to enact God's plan. They had to cross the ocean. And I think that even you will be able to say, as consecrated, while thinking about your founders, what experience, what displacement movements had to do our founders in order to create their communities, just as the lay people, all those who come to the service of migrants in one and unique charism. We could also say that we all come to life, to the culture, to the faith, to the vocation from a migration experience. And it is inscribed in us as an experience which has trained us, which has shaped us, and which has made us what we are today. And the result is not the result of a homologation, but of an interdependency, of a process, of a birth and of a death. This experience, I think, this experience perhaps makes us, everybody, especially the consecrated people, able to welcome our brothers and our sisters in the world which are in displacement. Obviously, the special way we can welcome them, especially when this movement is forced. When we think of this process, which is a very long process, it helps to think about it, because today we think about 230 million people that are on the move, but these are people have a real face, and each of them have their own stories, as we discussed during the last 3 days, and as the Pope has said himself, because there are neighbors, there are family members, there are friends, there are collaborators, our colleagues, they're part of our life. They're brothers and sisters that are migrating and that we find along the street, that we meet as we do our services, our parish service, our institutional service, our cultural service. And we could not forget that in this great migrant community, there is a group that is most vulnerable, the refugees, the people who live in camps, in the huge refugee camps. We have the victims of the human trafficking, babies, children, adults, who represent our challenge, but who also represent a human plea. Cannot forget that during the last month, all the care that we have directed to the migrants has been hit by the pandemic and its consequences. It has been affected, and it influences human movements, because even if many borders are still closed and are still limited, human mobility within the countries has also suffered very much. It has grown, it has become an opportunity in a certain way, or it has become prey to organized crime. So through this conference, and I apologize if I repeat myself, that's because you've probably repeated this idea many times during the conference as well. During this conference, we asked ourselves, we reflected on the sense of the phenomena of human mobility and on the response that God expects from us as consecrated people. And I think the Scalabrinian Migration Institution, the UISG and the USG for having organized this conference in order to foster a reflection on these phenomena, in order to nourish, illuminate our consciences, the conscience of our communities who have a need for conversion in this field, the conscience of the church and of society in order to reflect on phenomena and the causes of phenomena. And I thank in a very special way the tenacity of Father Aldo, who has been for a long time thinking about ways of creating this forum for sharing this specific reflection, not only on a theological and sociological and biblical perspective, but by sharing experiences. And it's obviously, and you probably ask yourselves the same question, we have to reflect on how we can pursue these dialogues in order to unite our forces, in order to continue our collaboration and our experience sharing, because the life that is these kinds of exchanges are a source of inspiration for many, because no organization, no charism, no institution has a magic word to solve problems. So we will be stronger if we collaborate. Us as a union, we can speak about our experience, our small experience, the small experience of our small projects in Sicily, in Lampedusa. There's a great project of Tacum, but we also think of many brothers and sisters who maybe in a very anonymous way are helping in the parishes, in the Caritas, in the institutions, or simply by through an intercongregational collaboration. Yes, I think that borders and the horizon of our involvement engagement is always current, is always important. We have to work on the attitude that we have when we are welcoming in the promotion, the attitude for offering support, for offering respect, for fostering integration. But it's also a question of influence, of how to affect international decisions, the decisions at country level, city level, diocese level, because migration is often prey to criminal organizations, as I mentioned before. And therefore, this means that there is a need for qualified participation in the dialogues that are organized. And there's also a third horizon that is also very important, less formal perhaps, but also very important. It's the one of storytelling, how we can transfer experience, news, how we can make people be aware of the stories of other people in educational centers, in health centers, in different institutions, in different ONGs. As a matter of fact, I would like to share with you a small story, as maybe a wish that I have for myself. In the visit that I made to the community that we organized to Lampedusa, we've visited the cemetery. The cemetery and the tombs that are hosting the bodies of people who have lost their lives trying to cross the Mediterranean there are many of such tombs there. And I met a lay person, a woman, whose job is to find a tomb for these people. By listening to her listening to her story, and seeing how moved she was by what she was doing, I asked her, why do you do this? Because she said that she was agnostic, and she told me that I do this for myself, not for them, for my own dignity, so that I'm able to look in somebody else's eyes, and I can tell them that I did not lose my dignity, that I can be able to take care of other people independently from their origin, from their destiny, and from the life that they held. And that is why I think that we cannot lose our humanism. And this story really affected me, and I really think about how she embodies dignity, how this story embodies the idea of dignity. So we have to change our attitudes. We have to change politics. We have to change the stories. And we're here in this small group who will then leave this forum in order to go in the field and work more illuminated than before. So I thank everybody who has, all the people who participated in the organization of this Congress, and to all the participants, to all those who have prepared the meetings. And I think I would like to congratulate all the speakers and all the people the stakeholders that are involved with the migrant situation. Especially, I'm thinking of the people who are working in proximity to the great borders of the world, the main borders that are affected by the movements of people. And as the Holy Father said in his letter, for next Sunday, that these borders are places of meetings, of encounters, where we can grow, when we can contribute to the growth of others in a world full of colors, cultures that are varied. And so with this text, with these words of encouragement that come from Pope Francis, we stay and we think that about how we can put ourselves to the service of this march, and how we can pursue our walk in order to sustain this agenda. Thank you. Thank you, Sister Yolanda, for these words of encouragement and on how to pursue our dialogue, our sharing, and mostly how we can put more attention to the people who are most affected by the migration problems, as we were able to listen, that we heard about over the past 3 days. So it's a testimony of the Church and what God has for his people. Thank you, Sister Yolanda, once again. And now I have the pleasure to introduce Father John Larson. Father John.
Of the Society of Mary. Father John was elected during the General Chapter in 2017 for a mandate of 8 years. Father John taught for 5 years in St. Patrick's College in Silverstream before volunteering for the wider mission of the Society. In 1985, he began his ministry in the Philippines and later worked in Myanmar and Thailand. He was involved in parish ministry, prison chaplaincy, retreat work, formal and non-formal education programs, healthcare, migrant ministry, and in leadership for formation. He has many years of experience of novice master as formator in the Philippines. Before his election as Superior General, he was the Superior Emeritus International Theology in Rome. So Father John Larson, thank you for being today, and thank you for addressing us words on behalf of Youth Federation. Thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Father Aldo. And on behalf of the USG, I'd like to thank everyone who's been involved in these really rich days of seminar. Particular thanks to the Scalabrinians and to CIMI, and to the USG and UISG, and to our friends at the Vatican who have helped all this so much. For those who've been involved technically, especially the translators, that's been really hard work. So thanks to you. And to all the speakers and all the participants. Most of us are probably very busy people, and it's quite a commitment to say, well, I'll be involved in this seminar for 3 days, for 4 hours each day. And each of us, therefore, who has been in this seminar is really committed to the ministry to migrants. But I came with a question, which was, how in fact can I or we as a congregation or as religious in the church, how can we deepen that commitment to migrants? That's why I said, okay, let's give this time. Let's really be committed. And it's because of that I had a question. And I think we've made great progress, or I feel I have anyway, and I hope that's shared. Even the way that it was structured is for me a lesson on how to be more committed. That the structure of each day is a template on commitment. The days started with reflections that were scriptural and were theological. And that's the basic start for our ministry in migrants, a commitment to the Word of God. We heard quite a lot of material, beautiful material about the Old Testament and about the people on the move, from Abraham to Moses, to the people in the desert, the people in exile, and other examples too. Noah's Ark was a favorite of mine. Hadn't thought of him as an ecological refugee. But all these were very helpful insights. And of course, the New Testament, from the flight into Egypt to the end of the Acts of the Apostles. And from that, I realized that it's actually in our DNA as Christians, as people of the book, to have a passion for this ministry for migrants and among migrants, because we share in that migrant story and have since the time of Abraham. And then others developed those roots theologically. We heard a lot about the teachings of our Holy Father, Pope Francis, who was inspiring in this area. And we heard a lot about the 4 verbs that he uses to help us understand, to welcome, to protect, to promote, and to integrate. We heard it again and again because it's good theology and it's something we can understand. We learned about new understandings of church, particularly as the people of God on the move. And the ecclesia calling the people together, and particularly the people from the periphery. Now, all of this is very rich food for our reflection on how we can be more committed to work in the migrants. And I particularly love the example that used Lampedusa as the image and the reality, from migrants who travel from being nobody to searching to be somebody, leaving their country, and actually finding communion with the body of Christ, even if for many people, Muslims and Buddhists and Hindus and others, it's not expressed, but there's a sense of a journey with the church. So that's the scriptural and theological understanding to the answer to my question, how can we be more committed to be more people of prayer, people of the word, and people of theology? And then the template moved and it looked at the actual reality of what's happening. And this was also very, very interesting and inspiring to hear so many stories from Africa, the Middle East and Europe, from the Americas, from Asia and the Pacific, Australia. To hear all these stories make us realize that we're in this together and that our call as church is to be among the people. Now, if you're in an office in Rome, it's very hard to do it, but perhaps we can help others to do it if we've done it ourselves, to be with people and to accompany them. The good news for me from all of these days is that the church is so involved and it keeps people to the fore. We could be talking about statistics and numbers, and they have their place, but we heard a lot of talk about journeying with people who have names and challenging us to go and be with the people. The church is on the move. So there was rich material there in the reality of what's happening. And then the third part of the journey that we've been through the last 3 days was that of personal sharings in the small group sessions. And there we heard the ordinary story of each of us as participants and realized that we're all migrants and working together. These were really rich sharings because we wanted to be here and we wanted to hear what others said. There was a lot of talk also about realizing that each of us in our little world can't do much, not very much, but together, if we collaborate and work in union with each other, even though there are great difficulties in that, then we can do great things. And then the theme that came up again, especially in the small group sessions, I heard it several times. We have to get away from the mentality that we are working for the migrants, but rather we are migrants ourselves, and we are working with our sisters and brothers who are migrants. Perhaps underpinning all of this was the constant call for conversion, that I myself am converted to being more committed to the journey with my sisters and brothers who are migrants, that somehow we, as congregations, a greater awareness of this commitment to migrants. Some are more willing, some are less within the congregation, and even ecclesially, offering opportunities to open the hearts and minds of our sisters and brothers in the church, some of whom would surely be totally against accepting migrants or being part of this journey. So it's about conversion, our own, our congregation, our church, our people. So thanks for this opportunity. I came with a question. I'm not sure I've got a simple answer, but the direction of the answer from the flow of the days has been time very well spent. Thank you for everybody who's been involved.
Thank you very much, Father Larsson, for this inspiring words, and of course, for the questions that you made us that are not here only for giving an answer, but to live an answer, no? With our brothers and sisters, migrants and refugees, seafarers, and everybody who is living in this mobility situation. So how can we be committed? And how can we be better journeying and be with the people on the move? Vorrei ora concludere.
I would like to conclude by offering some thoughts and by putting a focus on certain things that have been stressed in the course of these very rich 3 days in which we have shared our thoughts, and we had a very rich dialogue, themes that are recurrent and themes that each of us can bring back to his own home in order to pursue their reflections and put them into practice. I would like to offer 4 points concerning the dynamics that we have lived through in the course of these last 3 days. I think that for the first part, we need to stress that the migrations per se are a historically a historical factor. So that is the reason why many people think of the acceleration of the migratory process, similar to the ones that we know today, are linked to a recent history, to structural transformation that has taken place in society. So today, more than ever, migrations are represent a challenge for societies and the church, and deserve a specific attention. And a second element of attention can be found in the fact that it is important to stress and to keep in mind when we speak of migrants and refugees and seafarers, people on the move, we need to think that human mobility is not just a matter of numbers. We are used to hearing about migration in terms of statistics and numbers. However, numbers, they are very important because they show us a picture of the situation that we are analyzing in order to find solutions. But there's a lot more than numbers. Behind these numbers, we have the face of people, women, children, men who often were forced into leaving their own land in order to start a journey towards unknown destinations. So we have prejudices, stereotypes that often constitute the underlying message in the news, in the communication means. And this serves to depersonalize migration phenomena and to nourish the difficulties of the people who have to go through the phenomena. So we have to give a face to the migrants. We have to return his story. We have to give them a faith. And we would also like to stress that the church has always been involved in the anthropological, social, and human challenges, and so doing has always carried the burden of sufferings, but also the hopes of men and women of different eras and cultures. This, not in the name of a supposed superiority, nor moved by sheer curiosity or the desire to provide easy answers to complex questions. At the root of it all, there was and still is the call of Jesus. I was a stranger and you welcomed me, which has its roots in the experience of faith and of life of the chosen people and reaches out to an open and welcoming vision of heavenly Jerusalem. The church itself is, in a certain sense, the fruit of a providential human mobility and a mixture of cultures and traditions. And last but not least, I would like to make an important reference to the actions and the teachings of Pope Francis, who, by visiting Lampedusa on July 8, 2013, the Pope implemented his own words by putting at the center of the world's attention the problems connected with the migratory phenomenon, and the responsibility of all pastoral actors, whether these be social and institutional, that are addressed by the biblical question, which he repeated in his homily, "Where is your brother?" The Pope also suggests a set of 4 actions, which he expresses by the verbs to welcome, to protect, to promote, and to integrate, through which we can face the migratory phenomenon and its complexity. These words are a clear reminder as to how a prophetic church can, on the one hand, denounce injustices and violations of human dignity, and on the other side, announce boldly, as Pope Francis writes in his Brothers All, and I quote, "One humanity, as travelers made of the same human flesh, as children of this same land that hosts us all, each with the richness of his faith and his convictions, each with his own voice, everyone brothers, where there are no longer others, but only a we." End of quote. So to conclude, I think that religious life, consecrated life, plays a basic fundamental role, not only for generous, courageous, and proactive service, but also to testify to the message. Our communities can be prophetic even in the measure in which they live in a fruitful way the diversities, and they can overcome the divisions that create conflict and pain in today's world. The challenge is not only what action, pastoral action, and for whom, but also what face do we want to give to the society and to the church. And this is a never greater message of the International Migrant and Refugee Day that we will be celebrating next Sunday. So a big thanks, my warmest thanks to CME, USG, and West, who have promoted this initiative, to the Directive Committee, who has supported the organization of this event, and obviously to all the speakers, to the moderators who offered different perspectives that are complementary, and to the many testimonies that have been shared from all over the world. And thank you to those who have supported this initiative materially. And also, I wish to thank very warmly the people who we cannot see, but who are there. I'm talking about the technical team who allowed us to be all connected together and made sure that everything worked perfectly, to the communication team, and in particular to the interpreters, who deserve particular thanks because they helped us understand each other and overcome the language barriers. So most of all, I would like to thank all of you who have participated, and also and mostly for the service that you offer. So the very positive feedbacks that we received over the past 3 years are a reason why we should continue to promote our training and sharing network in order to pursue our action together. So thank you. Thank you.
Obrigado e ciao a tutti.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Everyone, bye.
Aqui não abre esse negócio.
Jorge 2020 y ahí sale el tema, el mensaje del Papa. Te voy a mandar la canción, ¿vale?
Mas às vezes abre isso todo, né? Mas agora não abre.
Obrigado. Chao, chao.
Gracias.
Gracias por llamarnos. Estamos en contacto.
Não tem isso aqui. Não tem isso aqui, André.
Gratidão.
Foi a Paulina, nossa. Paulina, não?